UFC Fight Night Vera versus Sandhagen just wrapped up, and I was going to live stream during the event, but I did party a little bit too hard last night, so I didn't stream during the event. But let's talk about the card and also who I think that the UFC are going to match people up with next, or what fights I would match up with next as well in the divisions after the event. You know what I mean? Let's just get straight into it. Corey Sandhagen beat Marlon Vera. In my opinion, he won 4 or 5 rounds, depending on the two, but the split decision is crazy, dude. I think Corey Sandhagen pretty clearly won 4 rounds. You could argue, I believe it's the 3rd round. It was quite close. You could argue went to Vera's way, but it was still 4-1 or 5-0 for Corey Sandhagen. Very weird judging scorecard there. 3-2 for Vera. But we move on. There was a call out made over Merab. I personally would much rather watch Corey Sandhagen take on Sean O'Malley. I think that would be a fight that would be so much more entertaining. But I do understand the call out of Merab. I think that makes a little bit more sense. There's a little bit of history there because Corey Sandhagen obviously has fought Aljamain Sterling in the past. Merab's not going to fight Aljamain Sterling when he's got the belt. And I believe Sean O'Malley's like guaranteed the title shot after we get the Cejudo versus Aljo fight. So I think Corey Sandhagen versus Merab probably does make a bit of sense. We move on. Holm beat up Julianna Santos. The first round was pretty competitive, but Holm started to take over towards the end, using her wrestling and grappling. Spent a lot of time on top as well, landing ground and pound, and even going for submissions at points. It was interesting, but I think we're going to have to see Holm fight another top contender. I mean, I think she's ranked like number 3 in the women's bantamweight division, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, she's ranked number 3. And I believe Raquel Pennington is very likely to fight for the title next. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I think we're just going to do Holm versus Julianna Pena. Julianna Pena seems to be really trying to campaign for a trilogy fight with Amanda Nunes at bantamweight. I don't really want to see it, honestly. I would rather... do I want to see Pennington fight Nunes, though? I don't know. The total women's bantamweight's a little bit of a mess right now. We definitely need to get a few more contenders coming up the rankings. But if Pena's getting the title shot, then you can do probably Holm versus Raquel Pennington. And then if Pennington's going to get the title shot, you can do Holm versus Pena. Or you could maybe do a Vieira rematch. I don't really know. It's just weird. The top of women's 135 is a very odd situation right now, isn't it? But we move on. Nate the Train beat Austin Lingo. I love Nate the Train. He also made a call out himself over Alex Caceres. They were meant to be fighting on this card, but Alex Caceres pulled out. I'm not actually too sure why. Maybe he was injured or maybe just something else happened to him. But I think that's a fight that makes sense. I think it's a very good stylistic matchup for Alex Caceres, though, to be honest. I think Alex Caceres would probably find a lot of success in that fight. But, hey, Nate the Train's dangerous, dude. Nate the Train's dangerous. I love Nate the Train. One of the better personalities in the UFC. If he's making call-outs, let's give him the call-out. Let's give him Alex Caceres. Nate Landwehr versus Alex Caceres. Both guys aren't young. They're both 34 years old, so it's not like you're going to kill off a prospect by feeding him to Nate the Train or Alex Caceres, you know what I mean? So I think that makes sense. Alex Caceres also ranked number 15. Nate Landwehr wants that number 15 spot, so let's give him the opportunity. Macy Barber beat Andrea Lee by split decision. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I wasn't watching this fight too closely, like at all, to be honest, but Macy Barber was... apparently it was controversial. I need to rewatch it myself. I was actually doing my Clash of Clans War Attacks during the fight. So, yeah, but to be fair though, every time I looked up though, it looked like Andrea Lee was winning. She was getting takedowns and all that. But anyway, whatever. Macy Barber's going to be number 11 ranked now. Just above her and on a losing streak is Viviane Araujo, who's ranked number 10. She's lost 2 fights in a row. She's going to have to defend that ranking against someone lower ranked than her again, and it would probably be Macy Barber. So let's go with Viviane Araujo versus Macy Barber. Both girls will probably be taking off a little bit of time since the last fights. I mean, Araujo just fought recently, lost to Amanda Ribas. She also lost to Alexa Grasso, and she also beat Andrea Lee herself, actually. So it could be an interesting fight. I don't actually know who I'd pick in that one. I think it would be very, very close and hard to call. But I think Macy Barber, she beat Andrea Lee. Let's not reward her with like a fighter way up in the rankings. Let's maybe give her the number 10. Viviane Araujo. Or if you don't want to do that, Casey O'Neill's coming off a loss. Do you really want to kill off a prospect, though, by doing prospect versus prospect? I think that's the fight to make. Araujo versus Barber. Albert Duraev beat Chidin Jakwani. This is a decision I personally disagree with as well. I thought Chidin Jakwani won the 2nd and 3rd rounds, just landing the better strikes. I think Duraev was landing more volume in the 2nd round, but I really do feel like Chidin Jakwani was landing the more damaging shots in the 2nd round. But Either way, it was a close fight. Duraev looked good. He didn't really lean on his wrestling that much, but I'm going to give him a matchup where he's going to have to lean on his wrestling, and that's against Jacob Malkoun. Jacob Malkoun's coming off that win over Nick Maximov, which I think Nick Maximov got cut after that fight, which is weird. And he also lost to Brendan Allen recently, who's now ranked. So I think Jacob Malkoun versus Albert Duraev. If Jacob Malkoun can beat Albert Duraev, and then maybe one more like really good opponent, considering the level of competition he just beat, such as Brendan Allen and Nick Maximov, he's probably somewhere around the rankings almost. If he can get this win, if he can fight Albert Duraev and beat him, and then beat someone else, he's in the conversation for a number 15 spot, I would say. We move on down the card. Daniel Pineda beat Tucker Lutz. I picked Tucker Lutz in this one here, but Daniel Pineda looked good. He's an older guy, but man, this guy can finish, man. He's got so much power in his hands. He's got chokes for days. He's an older dude, so let's see what we can do. I've kind of given him another matchup. It's a little bit cruel, though, who I've given him, and I don't really like it. But it makes sense because they're both old. It is Darren Elkins. Do we really need Darren Elkins fighting someone that's got 28 finishes on their record? No, but at the same time, they're both old. I think they're both about 38 years old. I think Daniel Pineda's almost 38 himself. No one's really finishing Darren Elkins, but man, they're beating him up pretty badly. It's not really a fight I want to see that much, but I think it's just something they're going to do. And it does make sense rankings-wise, and it does make sense age-wise, because you don't want to give Daniel Pineda, a young, up-and-coming 25-year-old, just for him to get knocked out by a 28 and 14, 37-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that sort of situation. Lucas Alexander beat Steven Peterson, proved me completely wrong, looked actually really, really good, looked really technical, he's made rapid improvements. I think that we can maybe give him a very slight step up in competition, I guess you could say. Luis Saldana is probably looking for a matchup around now. He took a lot of time off after he had that really weird performance against Sean Woodson. It was just such a weird fight, dude. But yeah, he's taken a lot of time off. He hasn't fought in a while. He's probably looking to get back in there around now. Lucas Alexander didn't seem to take too much damage. He seems like a young, up-and-coming guy. He's a young guy himself. He's only 27 years old. He's probably hungry to get back in there again around the middle of the year, maybe in 4 months, 3 months, 5 months' time. So I think you could do Lucas Alexander versus the guy I just matched up with. And I closed the tab. I'm a genius. But I think that makes sense. Get Lucas Alexander back in there soon. With Luis Saldana. Trevin Giles beat Preston Parsons. I don't know if anyone's like upset with this decision. Personally, I did score it for Giles when I was watching it live. I believe it was the second and third round I gave to Giles. I'm seeing people say like Giles like controlled the fight for like 10 seconds at the end of the third or something, but Giles was smacking him up on the feet, dude. There was a very clear striking skill gap, clear striking skill gap in this matchup. Trevin Giles was the much better boxer. He didn't really throw any kicks whatsoever, but he was still smacking up Preston Parsons on the feet. He was popping the jab out there, and he's just landing on Preston Parsons. So let's give him a step up in competition. He's on a win streak now at welterweight. I think he's won 2 in a row now. He beat Lewis Koske and Preston Parsons. Let's give him a step up in competition against an older guy, but a guy that's still dangerous. Carlston Harris, he's 35 years old. 18-5, just recently beat Jared Gooden, who coming on short notice. He didn't look incredible in that fight, and that would be another close fight. I think Carlston Harris would probably win it. That would be a very, very close fight, and I'm not too sure how you would score it. But we move on. I kind of spoiled it there. Victor Altamirano versus CJ Vergara is the final matchup. They both fought on the same card. CJ Vergara took a lot of damage, and CJ Vergara might not even be ready to come back. At the same time, Victor Altamirano will be ready to come back. But there's kind of like these rumors of what would make sense of a Mexico card towards the end of the year. And if Victor Altamirano is willing to take some time off, make improvements, recover, all that sort of thing, he could probably fight in Mexico. And I think against CJ Vergara would make sense. But I just realized Victor Altamirano is 32 years old. He's probably not that willing to take so much time off in between fights. But I would like to see Victor Altamirano take on CJ Vergara. I think it makes sense rankings-wise. I think they're both 2-2 in the UFC. Altamirano's 2-1, in the UFC. Vergara's 2-2 in the UFC. They've both got a similar opponent in Daniel Da Silva. Altamirano managed to finish Daniel Da Silva earlier, but they both got in trouble against Da Silva. I think that fight makes sense. As for Daniel Da Silva, man, dude, I think he's going to get cut. I'm going to be honest. But if he's not going to get cut, let's do him versus Vinicius Salvador. I want to see that fight. I really do think he's going to get cut, though, which is a shame because he's so entertaining. I love his fight. It's just that he's on the losing end of them. But if he's not getting cut, which I think he is, because he's probably on a 4-fight contract and just lost all 4 fights, I want to see him versus Vinicius Salvador. If not, Vinicius Salvador, dude, I don't really know. Because Vinicius Salvador, although he looked kind of good in the fight, man, he looked really sloppy at the same time. It wasn't that impressive of a performance for Vinicius Salvador. So, be interesting to see what they do with him in the future. But that's everything I've kind of got for the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.